the spot and asked me a question, or asked him about smart meters. And so his response was, I can't disagree with anything Skip said, other than this is not a nefarious thing. Agenda 21 is not a bad thing. We need to be saving power. But what I'm going to tell you, he confirmed was factually accurate. And so this is an actual bill out of Massachusetts. Here's what's going on with smart meters. They put a smart meter on your home. That meter monitors what you're doing. In the short run, what they're doing is they're building a database of knowledge about your consumption habits and patterns. The longer term objective is to modify your power consumption habits. They, in the beginning, will do it in friendly ways. The long-term objective, if you do your research on this, is not to do it in friendly ways, to provide more coercive techniques.
Friendly ways is peak pricing, certain times a day it'll be higher price, so it encourages you to wash your clothes another time of day.
Well, even to the point where right now the federal government, through the Smart Grid program, is requiring manufacturers to put smart chips in devices.
You can turn it off.
So that they can control those devices. They control your thermostat, they control, your washing machine conceivably, so on and so forth. But here's an actual bill out of Massachusetts. And so this first line, you can't read it, but this first line says, the green line is your efficient neighbors. The second line says all of your neighbors. The third line is you. You bad energy consumer. You bad person, you. You're bad. You better get in line and you better get your down to that green, because if you don't, I hear they're taking birthdays away. I don't want to say. Just saying, it could happen to you. Go ahead.
Well, it sounds like they want to put us back to the feudal system, and I want to know who's going to be king.
Well, we already know. We already have it. I'm not sure if he's going to like that. Your kid. I don't know if he's going to choose to go his own court. But these are some of the techniques that, a lot of this is very scary stuff. Because if you go onto the PUCO website, they tell you where they want to go. And they say, we want to help you to save energy. It's like, I'm 33 years old, and I don't know how to turn off a light switch. I like my lights on. My wife comes home, I have every light in the house on, I have every TV on. I don't want to be in the dark, and I want to hear the news every room I go into. Okay? It's my choice. I pay the bill. If I'm going to spin that meter at 1,000 miles an hour, it's my choice. I should have the freedom and the choice to do that. I pay for it. Don't come tell me that I can't consume as much power as I want to consume. But that's what they want to tell you to do. And they want to do that not only by methods like this, but by putting power companies out of business. First Energy's in a box. It's not really First Energy's choice, to some degree. It's a company. They would make all the money that they could make if they could. But the federal government is putting coal-fired power plants out of business. Coal-fired power plants produce 70%, 75% of our power. So when you put that out of business, of course we've got to find a way to alter our habits, because we got all that wind power that they're trying to put out in the Lake Erie. And that's so doggone effective, I can't hardly stand it.
In the middle of the shipping.
Of course, there is a new food source. It's all the dead birds that are floating up on the shores. It's all good. You just got to look at the upside to it. So, but, it is very scary stuff. And let me point this out to you, because some will say, oh, this is all conspiracy, this is all conspiracy. I got a hold of PUCO. A couple of points on PUCO. And Ron, I could use your help with those guys. They knew who I am. I asked him, the head of PUCO, if he'd come in and make a presentation. He said yes, he would. So if you guys want to hear from him, we'll bring him in, we'll ask him some questions, so on and so forth. But I told him, look, this is not right. This was before First Energy starting to allow opt-out. So today, until they get beyond the tipping point, First Energy is allowing you to opt out. So we'll send you a card in the mail. If you say, I don't want the smart meter, you say, no, they won't put it on. That is purely optional. Legally, they own that meter. They have the right to go to your house and to take that meter off and replace it. They don't want a big uproar. And so they're making it optional. So I raised a stink with the PUCO. PUCO is trying to create a regulation for a fee that allows you to opt out. Matt Lynch has currently got a bill in the House to allow us all to opt out permanently without the fee. So support Matt Lynch, support Ron, ask Ron to help him to sponsor that bill. And so we can get that into, so we have some control over our life, for God's sakes. But I reached out to the PUCO, and anybody that knows me knows I like to do a ton of research. I do a lot of research and I have a ton of data. And so I asked them to send me everything they had on smart meters. I had to go get a separate hard disk because of all the stuff that they But one of the pieces of information I was filtering through was this data access and privacy document, which is our guidelines for data access and privacy. And so I brought up this document and I said, well, that's interesting. They don't know how to spell. Look at this. They spell program P-R-O-G-R-A-M-M-E. Not only is PUC incompetent, but they can't spell. And then I got looking a little farther and I said, wait a minute. In the United States of America, data access and privacy standards are being created out of the Department of Energy and Climate in London, England, or Whitehall, England. United Nations. I am very concerned when in the United States of America our data standards, our security standards, our wiring standards for our homes, our building code standards, all of those things are created internationally and not in this country. I'm very concerned about that. Come talk to our building code guy in Jugcon, great guy, and ask him about the current building codes, which he kind of looks the other way on many of these things because they're such nonsense. So we talked about conservancies, RPI, oh, another great organization. By the way, if you think smart meters are going to be a friendly device, this was an article out of Chicago. They're not quite as friendly in Chicago. They actually arrested a lady who was trying to stop them from putting a smart meter on their own. So, and if you think this is optional, this is the new model for NUSCC and their plan to roll out all those things that they say are just recommendations. How many times the other night did we hear it's just a tool set? It really is not going to go anywhere. It's just a tool set. It's just a set of recommendations. Well, do you need a whole board put together to roll out your tool set? So this is their new board and their executive committee and this other layer that they've got on here, and they want to put experience. That is what they're creating because they got this tool set.
How much time we have left?
Not much.
No, I mean, with this.
Before I'm getting pretty close around. Should we lock it?
Now, till our lives are over.
How soon is it gonna happen?
He's talking.
Oh, it's happening right now. So here's where NUSCG just created their scenario. Went through all the scenario planning, yada, yada, yada. They created all the propaganda they need. They knew going in what they wanted to accomplish. They just needed to go through a process to say they have buy-in.
How far are they along?
And so they're just rolled out their suggestions, recommendations for feedback. They got some feedback the other night, which I don't know that they really expected. And then by the end of the year, they want to start the next phase, the implementation phase of those. Now, the problem that they've got is funding. They took the $4.6 million, they don't have any more federal funding. So unless they get more federal funding, now they are seeking, I've got a whole plan around their funding approach. But their funding approach is this. They'd like to go for private dollars. So they have I have a whole list of companies. I have the presentation with me, but it's not here. It's not in what I'm showing you. It lists a whole bunch of companies that they want to go after to get private dollars. So they get each of the companies to contribute $10,000 to $15,000. Their goal is to have a $500,000 revenue stream to continue into the rollout process. And so, Hunter Morrison makes $106,000 a year, whatever he makes. I think it's $120,000 a year. And so he has to get his $120,000 a year, and he's got to have some other secretary and all that kind of stuff. So they're seeking that funding now. Now we could bugger that up. If we had a group of concerned citizens who went to First Energy, who went to Goodyear, who went to a lot of the private companies that they're trying to, Sherwin-Williams, that they want to approach, they don't like negative press, those companies. We could probably put a dent in their financial plans. In addition to that, they are baking in, NOACA has already started using much of what they're rolling out in their master planning process. And so I challenged that at the last NOACA meeting. I said, look, if you're confident, first of all, I have huge concerns over the data. and the process that they use. And so I said, I challenge you to bring in a third party, or I'll bring